The title of this podcast is Welcome Challenges That Cause You Suffering. This is inspired by a couple of recent events, and I am so glad that about a year or two ago, I started telling myself that I am serious about my growth. And what that meant for me was the things that hit my stuff, that caused me suffering, that I wanted to be different, that caused me to have a reaction to where I wanted to blame, defend, resist. I wanted to, and close my heart. I wanted those challenges to keep coming so I would learn how to handle them without closing my heart. And part of that has been being really aware of not needing anything externally to be a certain way for me to be okay inside. And so let's take, for an example, challenges. I mean, not challenges, but attachments. Attachments to what? Material things? Well, that could be one. And whether you're suffering with it is if it was taken away or if something happened to it and it was damaged, would you be okay inside? Or you so identified with it that you think it's actually, it impacts you physically, it impacts you in a way to where you feel diminished or injured. That's how you know. So I gave an example a while back of the car that I bought, which is a nice car. And I dropped my metal water bottle on the side of it and it caused a little dent. And I had to ask myself, like, I remember the initial reaction of being like, oh my God, I gotta get that out. And felt like it was an injury to me, but it wasn't. It's a material thing. And so it had a psychological effect more than it did anything else. And that's what I want to be free of. That feeling like I need to get it perfect again so that it is unblemished, which in by extension, I'm unblemished and I'm whole. And so I let all that go. Needless to say, it's been a year later and I haven't gotten the dent fixed. And if I choose to get the dent removed, it won't be because I'm tied to the identity of it or I feel like the vehicle or myself is diminished in some kind of way. So that's what I mean about using all of these opportunities or these challenges to work on yourself and to let go of being someone who allows things outside of their control to cause them any kind of suffering. Most recently, I had an event that is another great example of this. And I was invited to go and play pickleball to an indoor court, which can be a welcome respite if you're here in Arizona to where the temperature can be pretty warm during the summer. And we have had a pretty warm summer, like many places in the United States. And so I was invited to go to this place that's 30 minutes from my home. I went to the place and the people that I was playing with have been very kind to me in my little community where we play on outdoor courts. And it's been great. And I haven't had an issue before, or my kid 1.0 hasn't had an issue. But this day, there was to be something different. And we played a game, and the older gentleman who invited me out, he and his wife, he asked me, hey, Keith, hey, do you have some time before you go to meet someone? I was like, sure. He wanted to meet me with this guy. And he went on to say that the guy, he said, hey, I don't know if he's being funny or what, but he said, hey, listen, this guy who I want to introduce you to, he's a great guy, but he has Tourette's. And so he says the N word, all the time. And he says a 4-letter word that starts with C that is a very derogatory term that's used toward women. And at first I'm taken aback by this because we haven't had a conversation or he hasn't said anything like this in the past. So I remember like just being aware of my mind and where it was going, and like how this was awkward in my mind, just for a second, want to say like, does this guy have social etiquette? Does he know that this could be offensive? Like, why would he want to invite me? And then I just stopped it. And I was just like, I said, okay. And I just let it go, just let it go. And I continued to play that day. And I didn't have my card closed to him. But I did think about it after the fact, like, hey, listen, is this a subject that I'm going to have to broach with him somewhere down the line? Do I revisit this and say, hey, listen, let's talk about this incident? What would make you think I want to meet someone like that? Well, there's no right or wrong, good or bad to answer to that question. But it is one which I always come back to. Do I want to welcome challenges that cause me to grow? And the answer is yes. I don't know what the growth will look like. All I do know is I will know that it's meant for me if I feel my heart closing to someone. And this particular thing with the N word has been something that has caused me quite a bit of uh, suffering over the years for reasons that you might expect. It's a very derogatory term, and racial epithets of any kind. I choose not to hear. I don't speak them. I choose not to be around that language when it's being used. Not in media, whether it's film, television, or music. I prefer not to see or hear the language. And so I let that go. And then I played with him recently. A couple of days ago, we were on the court, and he wanted to tell a funny story. This time it was other people around. He was telling a story in which he wore blackface, right? And I haven't had a chance to talk to him yet. But I did know that I was okay inside, that when I saw him that day, my heart wasn't closed, anything like that from the previous event. And so I see him and we're playing, he and our teammates, we're communicating well, we're laughing. It's a fun time. He's like, hey, did I ever tell you guys, or Keith, come over here, you want to hear this? Really? So he says, hey, Keith, did I tell you this story about the time that I wore blackface? And I'm like, again, like my mind, my 1.0 is thinking like, what makes him think that this is something that I would be interested in hearing? I don't know, like know your audience. But I let it, I could tell that he was eager to tell the story. So he tells a story about he was getting ready for a Halloween party. He had this whole gadget set up, and he tried to do it without blackface. It was something, a Star Wars theme, but with the mask that he was wearing, you could see his skin under the mask, and it wasn't selling the costume the way he wanted it to be sold. So he thought that he went to the store, got makeup, put it on, and so now he's in blackface. And so he's telling this story, but I'm not closed off, and there are other people around, and he's like, well, this didn't work. So what do I tried this makeup, it didn't work. So what do you think I should have done? And he's about to say that he tried another piece of makeup, and I said, you could have chose a different costume, and everything that he said at every point along the story, I would give him something else to think about, but not in a way that was defensive, or that was trying to shame him or make him feel, blame, guilt or cast blame. It wasn't like that. It was just like very, I think, thoughtfully, like suggesting another way to approach it. He was like, well, listen, what I did choose, I couldn't get it off my skin easily. That stays on. So I went to work, the next day, and the guys who I work with all black, and they didn't think it funny at all. And I was like, now, why would they? It wasn't funny in 1970, and it's not funny in 2023, And so, but I said it in a way that was free of any kind of suffering for me. But it's likely that I'm going to, during the course of whatever years I have left on the planet, run into people who have had different experiences than mine, who say things that they think is funny that I may not think is funny. Will I be able to handle that without closing my heart to them? Will I be able to be with them in such a way that I don't confuse their behavior with their humanity, and just understand, like, hey, listen, this is a human being who had different experiences than I had. And because of that, this is why this sounds funny to them. This is why they feel comfortable doing that. And there are going to be instances in which I'm going to share or tell a story, communicate something, and which is going to be the reverse, and to where all my past experiences have influenced me telling this story or me sharing something that other people may not want to hear or may even go as far as being offended by. I'm hoping that I create the kind of space and relationship with people that they'll let me know if I do that, so that I can learn and correct the behavior. And I would appreciate that grace. And so, without ever asking for this neighbor of mine in the community, I did what the practice helps me do: to not take anything personal, to use every opportunity that appears in front of me to let go of my personal self, to see the humanity in every person, regardless if we agree or disagree. And when something happens that an offense is made or perceived offense, to extend grace. And that's exactly what I did. And because I want to use every opportunity that causes me suffering to grow. And I hope you will too.